You can define San Diego by magnificence. The nation's 8th largest city borders the Pacific Ocean on one side, Mexico on another.
And right here we have the actual border fence that separates the United States from Mexico, Tijuana, Mexico.
You can define it by miles. 331 square miles, home to more than 1.3 million people.
The community is huge. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's our job. And I mean, that's what's drilled in since day one.
As for the 1,300 uniformed and civilian personnel of the San Diego Fire Department,
we run fires, we run medical aids, we do EMS, we have lifeguards. We can't be stagnant.
This is a city defined by a mission.
You know, our mission-driven culture really is about, identifying what we are from an operational culture perspective. What are the values? What are the principles? What are those things that drive us as a department? What are they now, and what is it that we would like them to be?
It honestly takes a lot of heart.
We had 20 calls yesterday. 6 of those were after midnight.
Kept you busy.
It did, nonstop.
Taking care of the community, that's always been the job. Taking care of themselves, that's a work in progress.
There's nothing more important, for any fire chief than the health, safety, and well-being of their firefighters. There's absolutely nothing more important.
The San Diego Fire Department is taking tough lessons learned, training in new ways, talking about it with others, and hoping it helps any firefighter anywhere.
It's not just your responsibility to the citizens of San Diego, but to the department and to your brothers and sisters to make sure that you hold up your end of the bargain and make sure that you're ready for that call.
Well, per PD, they advise there are people inside the home, unknown how many.
There's a 12 copy.
You always hear the risk a lot, save a lot, risk a little, save a little. We risked a lot that night. We had to make that decision.
November 2015. A helmet cam records the action at a fire in a single-story, single-family home in San Diego. What the camera can't capture are the thoughts of Joe Zakar and Dallas Higgins as they make key decisions that will save 2 young lives.
My initial thought is, do I have time to extinguish the fire, better the conditions, and advance towards the kids? And with that amount of volume of fire, I said, no, I don't have time, I gotta get to them right now. So I just jumped through the window, hit the ground, and immediately we contacted with heavy, thick black smoke, can't see your hand in front of your face, and extreme heat. Taking the punishment from the heat and seeing very little, if anything, Dallas Higgins heard a small moan. So I dropped to my knees and I crawled into the bunk and searched and couldn't find anything. He kept searching and finally found 5-year-old Luis Castro Jr., who he swept to safety as his own gear started to smoke.
And I remember him telling me, I just wanted to stay in just 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds. He goes, I just couldn't. And he had to make that decision to jump out, and that was when it was like, okay, kind of like tagged me in. I'm like, all right, my turn. Jumped right in.
Joe Zakar says the heat pushed him to the ground. Then his thermal image camera failed. But Zakar had an instant backup to call on, his training academy lessons.
And I fell back to my academy. All right, how do I do a search? Stay to a wall, start searching, and that's what I did.
He worked from the inside. Dallas Higgins worked from the outside. And suddenly, light picked up 3-year-old Esme.
We kind of see it at the same time, kind of yell at the same time. He comes crawling over and finds Esme right there in the middle of the room and grabs her and crawls over the window and scoops her up and throws her up to me. Lets her pull her out the window, and she's there breathing.
Higgins and Zakar don't hesitate to credit the success of that rescue to what happened here as their careers began.
Spread out a little bit.
Sir, yes, sir.
The top priority is training.
Absolutely. Training is fundamental for our success.
Train, train, train. And as you train, you'll get to know your people. You'll get to see their strengths and their weaknesses. And you're able to focus on that.
I think the one thing that we start with in San Diego is our basic fire academy. And I think we instill the culture from day one in our basic fire academy.
heroes! Training's the backbone of our organization. It's where everybody starts.
The 16 weeks long Fire Academy teaches the basics and sets a foundation for people to grow throughout their career. One of the first steps is making certain that foundation is physically strong.
From day one in the Fire Academy, we have a very strenuous, physically demanding Fire Academy.
Just in the past, probably 10 academies or so, we've had a large decline in physical ability across the board of people coming into the academy. And what we've done with San Diego is we've created the Candidate Assistance Mentoring Program, which has allowed us to precondition our candidates and push them past their physical abilities to make them more successful in the Fire Academy.
Working stronger, working smarter.
Everything that we teach in a basic Fire Academy starts with being safe. So it starts from the very beginning when we're in the classroom. We teach them the right way to do things.
Even meals can be a chance to learn.
Something that we like to do in the fire service is eat. So we're gonna eat lunch and we're gonna eat dinner. So during that time, you can have simple tabletop drills.
What we're teaching them in the academy, is the worst case scenario, and hopefully they never have to experience it. But if they do, it's something that will save their life.
And save the lives of others.
2 San Diego firefighters who risked their lives to save 2 children from a burning home are being recognized as heroes.
Higgins and fellow firefighter Joe Zakar are presented the Spirit of Courage Award for their life-saving efforts.
But the real reward for these 2 firefighters didn't happen in a banquet hall.
So we went upstairs, and the nursing staff, just the staff, everybody, the nurses, the doctors, the techs, everybody at UCSD Burn Center was absolutely amazing. When they saw us walk into that burn unit, they were all coming up to us and giving us hugs and just going, I don't know how you do what you do. I don't understand it, I don't get it, but thank you for doing what you do.
The connection to these children continues today.
To see them heal, to see them now being kids is amazing.
And so does the connection to their training.
The Fire Academy has a very high importance placed on firefighter safety, firefighter survival, and giving the firefighters the tools to be able to mitigate incidences like this that are extremely dangerous, that are high risk, that are hot, that are smoky, very extreme situations.
We, as firefighters, we want to go, go, go. We want to just charge. But sometimes you have to slow down and you got to think about what you're about to do.
For more than a century and a quarter, firefighters have stood ready to protect San Diego from land, sea, and unlike a large majority of our nation's fire departments, the air.
San Diego is actually very diverse as far as the topography. We have everything from cliffs to ocean to mountainous regions to urban interface. We really have it all.
The helicopter itself is very valuable in the fact that we can respond quickly with water, get that initial water on a fire, and try to keep the fire small before they have time to grow.
Every element is deliberate. From the night sun, almost as bright as day.
Our night sun has 30 million candle power capability, can light up a city block.
To the European hoist profile learned from colleagues in Germany.
The way that we do our hoist profile is different than a lot of people in the country. It's a European technique that we learned from some folks in Germany that came over and did our initial training. Other than the power dependency part of it, which is a big safety factor, it's much easier on our medics and on the people that we rescue.
Yet the most rehearsed plans sometimes bring new lessons.
Started out as a small fire, as all fires do, in the backcountry east of Ramona.
The 2003 Cedar Fire, one of the largest wildfires in California history, brought lessons that changed this fire department.
We lost 2,800 homes at least, 270,000 acres, and the fastest wildfire ever recorded.
Captain Mike Howell says there were good things. Many homes saved, no firefighter lives lost, and an important realization that the training book needed a revision.
It showed us that we weren't, as a community and as a fire department, we weren't prepared for something like that. We didn't think it could happen or weren't planning for it. A fire coming out of the backcountry that that big and devastating. We hired a company that came in and did a formal after-action review of the entire incident, and it came up with a long list of action items, and the department immediately started working on those action items. So from there we got new equipment, we got new training, we had a new emphasis on wildland firefighting, but the biggest thing it did was the community, was we got money to do education, public awareness.
The San Diego Fire Department values those lessons learned.
We're very open to learning.
And there's always mistakes made on emergency incidents, and it's the willingness to be able to step up and say, hey, I made a mistake here, and this is what I learned from it. And if we have this same type of incident again next time, this is some things we can do to change that.
It's meant changes in policies and procedures, true culture shifts, whether it's a wildfire or a structural response.
We never provided for safety for ourselves. We assumed that the civilian was the one we were out there to rescue, and we would just deal with ourselves or whatever would happen to us.
So firefighters made their safety a key component of each response. This included incident command whenever 2 or more units are on the scene, and radio notifications every 10 minutes during a structure fire.
The incident commander is aware of how long the fire has been burning, because that's sometimes something that gets away from you. Overall, having good incident command and control on the fire ground is critical to the outcome and the safety of the firefighters.
Also critical to firefighter safety, doing more than just paying lip service to rapid intervention.
Now people realize the importance of RIC. We're there to save somebody's life if they get lost, if they get hurt, if they get injured. So now people are more open to take that RIC position, and they do a 360 of the building. They soften the structure if needed. They know where the windows are. They know where the exits are. They formulate an important plan to be able to remove people from that building, and just things like that have helped us out a lot.
None of this can happen without the hard work required for real culture change.
One of the things that we started doing in 2006 was really investing in training our people as leaders. We'd spent a lot of time doing training on technical knowledge and supervisory skills, but we hadn't really talked about leadership and what it's like to lead people.
One of the leadership lessons is evaluating risk, part of the Everyone Goes Home program.
On a standard fire where we know nobody's in there and there's nothing to risk, are we risking lives to save property? And is it really, even if there's a life that's in there, are they even savable, or are they past the point? And so really being smart about a risk profile is a critical factor in all the decisions that we're making now on the fire ground. And in everything we do, rescues included.
Firefighters discuss lessons learned in after-action reviews. Battalion Chief Tricia Paulette remembers the time a similar fire broke out just hours after the previous call's review.
Crews rolled in all of the learning from the previous fire, and it was amazing. And one of the big points that came out that really put a huge smile on my face was the fact that the previous AAR's points all rolled right in, making that second, more complex incident go a whole lot smoother.
Just in the last couple years, we've made great strides with fire behavior and how we actually attack fires, and we incorporate that into our training, especially in the Fire Academy, ensuring that our recruits are trained to the latest industry standards and are able to provide the citizens of San Diego with that top-notch service that they deserve.
Part of the training is the concept that everyone's perspective matters.
It used to be shut up and do what you're told.
That is not how it is today, and I think, it's better today.
What's valued has broadened to include the experience of veteran firefighters and the perspective of young recruits.
They're coming in with more safety knowledge. They're coming in with more interest in technology. They're coming in here with more a wide view of what is this all about. And with that, what's happened is the culture in the fire service has changed.
13 years ago, Oscar Rodriguez was one of the young ones. Just 3 months out of the academy, he responded to a fire at the Century-Old Mason Hotel.
So when we made this turn, I was able to see exactly what was going on in the building, seeing the smoke and the people hanging out of the windows on the 3rd floor from where you can see here. First window, there was one person hanging out. Second window, there was one person, and then the 3rd window, there was 2 people. The storefront obviously now is a lot different than what it was then. The doors were blocked. And I can remember the first engine company trying to get in, and it was tough.
17 people were injured. 2 people died. It was the first big fire of Oscar's career.
Everything happened very quickly. You know, I mean, it's a blur now.
What mattered that day was training, putting those lessons to work.
Knowing that, you know, falling back on the training that we had learned in the academy and how that played a role in, you know, my confidence and, you know, being able to keep my composure and act the way that I was supposed to be to help save those people and help put the fire out.
It's one of the reasons Oscar Rodriguez is now a trainer himself, part of a department committed to passing on critical lessons learned for the next time they will matter most.
As a firefighter, if you take that ownership in learning about safety and learning about your craft, you're going to be safer for it. You're going to be better for it. Your department's going to be better for it.
You know, wellness as a whole is a tough thing to tackle, and it's new to us.
Fire Chief Brian Fennessy has been a firefighter since 1978.
I worked at the busiest firehouses. I took a lot of pride in being at the busiest fire station in the city of San Diego, running 20, 30 plus calls, and my helmet showed that.
And that helmet represents a part of the experience Chief Fennessy doesn't want his firefighters to imitate.
My helmet was crusty, it was black, and when I went out and I worked overtime in some of the lesser, busier areas of the city, it was like a badge of respect. Man, what a mistake that was. And I share that story with my firefighters all the time.
The beauty is that we have a chief that understands that. And so we're shifting our focus from being reactive to being proactive, and we plan on making a difference.
It's a belief and a brand.
We've created a brand, and our Cancer Awareness and Prevention Program brand, and the crux of the brand is clean air, clean body, and clean gear, and we call it the 3 C's. Clean air essentially revolves around wearing your SCBA 100% of the time, and that doesn't mean, myself included, for years would shed my BA as soon as we had knockdown, and I'd wear my bottle but not my mask, and I don't know what kind of sense that made.
Now it's clean air, no exceptions.
Well, I think the best teaching tool is repetition. So when we're out here and we're having them do BAs for time, we are serious about, it's no good if your skin is showing. It's no good if you didn't open your cylinder.
We're trying to fight a culture that's well entrenched, and the culture is a macho firefighter covered in soot, doesn't wear his breathing apparatus, and that's not so easy to change, but we believe we can.
But essentially, that's what people are saying now. They're saying, well, I'm tired of wearing this bottle. I want to take it off. And it's not that heavy. It really isn't. If you want to know what heavy is, wait till you're so weak that your wife has to help you up the stairs because of the treatment you're going through.
Dan King once thought going without a mask and wearing dirty gear made him tough.
Well, I started having a sore throat. I started having, I could feel like a lump in the back, and typical American male, figured it would go away. It's just post-nasal drip. It's something to that effect. For probably 9 months, I had a sore throat, and finally decided it was time to get it checked out, and I went to my doctor. He said it's medical speak. It's squamous cell carcinoma, cancer.
That's when he learned what tough really was for him and his family.
He said, this will kill you if we don't do something now. There's a lot of tough things that we've all done as firefighters. This was one of the hardest thing I've ever done, and as hard as I thought it was going to be, it was 100 times harder.
Throat cancer is one of the most painful cancers. One of his oncologist nurses said, getting cancer is like being hit with a bat. Getting throat cancer is being hit with a bat with nails. Because of the location and the radiation and the chemo at the same time, it devastatingly broke his body down.
Dan King says he wouldn't change his job, but believes everyone has to change how they do it.
I think that we can wear our mask longer, some sort of respiratory protection. Just another 30 minutes is going to how many people, how many firefighters across the country can we save? by just doing that. You know, cleaning up their gear. How many more can we save?
And the members of the department that have fallen and been stricken by cancer and that have recovered, many have recovered, many have not, they're the ones leading this charge.
Clean bodies means procedures, including commercial wipes to get carcinogens off the skin and reduce exposure time. Clean gear means commercial washers that erase the idea that soot-stained turnouts are a badge of honor.
They have their own boots, that's a safety thing. We teach them to launder their equipment, keep it sanitary, so that's a safety thing. We issue them, you know, their own gear, so there's nobody sharing gear.
The next step, clean living, and a center to help put the strategy to work.
We have what's called San Diego Sports Medicine and Firefighter Wellness Center, where we, on an annual basis, go in and we get a maximal stress test and a physical examination and blood work, really a comprehensive physical that's proven very beneficial in detecting early cancers in many of our members.
Luckily for the firefighters, the city of San Diego and other municipalities around the San Diego region see the merit in it also, and the cities and the municipalities pay for this physical for them. They understand the cost savings as well. I mean, it only takes one cancer diagnosis, if we catch the cancer early enough, to pay for the whole program for an entire department for 1 year.
It's where cancer survivors like Anne Francois can get checkups and give advice.
Keep your gear on and keep it clean. Just take care of yourself.
Every firefighter comes here, every year, face to face with the risks that come with the job.
Statistically, we know that firefighters are more likely to die early of heart disease, of a heart attack. We know that they're more likely to get injured, particularly back injuries, knee injuries, shoulder injuries. And we know that they have a higher incidence of certain cancers. So that's our focus in the wellness program.
There are 6 stations from lab work to treadmills and outreach, teaching healthy cooking, eating, and exercise habits. The goal is aerobic activity 5 days a week, at least 30 minutes a day. Some payoff is immediate.
This is our level A suit, so the only time we wear this suit is in the absolute worst case scenarios, when you're going to come in contact with things that will kill you really quick.
Being in shape matters when inside the suit and operating in an environment where there is little room for error.
On an average day here in California, say an 80-degree day, which is fair weather here for San Diego, California, within this suit, once you start to perspire, you can lose 10% of your body weight. So physical fitness is paramount.
There's also long-term motivation to stay well, and that's led to a 97% participation rate in a voluntary program.
Early on, we got pushback from some of the older firefighters who figured they lived the way they lived and that was the way it was and they're not going to worry about it. But when they saw a couple of their buddies go down, some of the big tough guys go down with a cancer or heart disease, they realized that they could do the same. And quickly, as they began to see some of the diagnoses made in this wellness program, the culture changed. They took it more seriously, even the tough guys.
The message, do it for yourself and for everyone else.
There's an effect to me, but what about my family? And that's been our approach as well, is, hey, look, if you want to violate policy and do these things that are unhealthy for you, get it. You can be selfish and do that, but what about your family? When we're at your memorial and we're at your service, you know, your family over here is going to be upset. They're going to be devastated. Your friends are. So, you know, quit thinking of yourself and thinking of others. Firefighters are firefighters. They love what they do. It's the best job in the world. You hear that all the time, right?
We're here to help the community. We're here to be the voice on the other end of the line when they're having a bad night, stuff like that. So just glad to be here and be a part of it.
Service above all. But if we're not, you know, serving and looking after each other, we're not doing the public, you know, the kind of service that they expect from us. But there are things that affect firefighters that don't affect the normal public.
They see horrendous things, horrific things. Imagine they respond to the worst day of people's lives every day, day in, day out, for a 30-year career.
When I came on many, many years ago, that was something that we just kind of shoved back, and we didn't really talk about it. We talked about it among the crews, but you weren't seen as tough or strong if you showed any kind of sensitivity to maybe what you were exposed to. Completely different environment now.
San Diego Fire and Rescue responds to more than 150,000 calls each year. That's about one call every 3 minutes. Most seem routine, but the fire service too often has learned the difficult lesson that can come from believing any call is routine. One of those reminders came during a medical aid call for an intoxicated man, June 24, 2015. The location, the trolley stop at Park and Market.
It's hard to just describe how ordinary this call was. This call we've run thousands of times downtown. I mean, I probably could have run the call literally asleep. It was that boring, that routine.
Getting a call like that isn't abnormal for us. Of the 20 to 30 calls we run a day, 5 to 10 of them at least are going to be some kind of drug or alcohol abuse.
We parked here, I came down, I got my gear, got my medical aid gear, and then make my way down towards the stop.
It seemed the call would be even easier thanks to Ben Vernon's conversation with a bystander.
I could tell right away they were both homeless. The bystander gave me a turnover, told me that the patient was intoxicated, that he'd mixed his medicines. I asked the bystander if he knew the patient personally. He said he did not. He gave me a turnover about 30 seconds. I thanked him. He said no problem, and he walked away. My partner and I turned our attention to the intoxicated male, trying to help him. Suddenly we hear kind of a violent skirmish behind us. We turn around, and the bystander is attacking and punching a couple trolley security guards.
That's about when the commotion started and that the call kind of shifted from being that regular call to jumping into this bigger event.
A security officer's body camera captured what happened next.
When I saw he was going to attack me, this space shrunk quite a bit.
Yeah, so he started running at my partner, swinging his arms in a weird manner.
I didn't see the knife. I never saw the knife. He stuck me in the back, right here in the lower flank, missed my kidney by about 1 inch, then got me in the lung. He broke my rib and punctured my lung. And then I felt just the warm liquid, run out of my body, and then I couldn't take a full breath of air. And I knew immediately, I was like, oh no, I've been stabbed. And then I thought, oh no, my partner, and I turned, and he'd already been stabbed multiple times as well.
Look up at my partner, Ben, who at this point is answering San Diego City, our dispatch center, on the radio, telling them to send everybody, multiple firefighters have been stabbed. Kind of look up at him and give him that look of, what do you mean, who got stabbed? And he literally answers me and tells me, well, Alex, you got stabbed, buddy. We both got stabbed. And at that point in my mind, I was honestly coming back to work a week later. The big thing I didn't expect was the mental recovery from it.
San Diego's fire chief admits firefighter Alex Walbrett wasn't alone in his expectations. The psychological impact of this attack was not something his department was immediately prepared to handle.
In fact, it never really occurred to me that there would be some effect. In my mind, they get healed, turns into a pretty good story, and we recognize them publicly, for the heroics, and life goes on. Pretty naive on my part. Certainly it was not like that. Both of them suffered from varying degrees of PTSD, one very significantly.
And then I just sit on the couch, unable to sleep for the rest of the night. And this started every night, just no sleeping, nightmares, it was awful. So very quickly I knew mentally I was in trouble.
It took 6 or 7 months before I could go out in public in a crowded place and not just be overwhelmed with anxiety. I had to leave family Christmas parties because rooms were too crowded and I couldn't keep that anxiety down.
And we couldn't, in our own best nature, say that we were doing the absolute best for our own firefighters.
So the mindset and the system changed.
Since that time, our San Diego Firemen's Relief Association has been leading the charge on the mental health and mental wellness initiative.
So some of our work is about retraining, shifting that idea that no, this is actually a normal response. It's actually normal to have a response to it.
Mental health care, including PTSD treatment, is now a department priority with an individual focus.
We're not going to ask them to sit down and talk about, what's going on with their crew members. That just doesn't work like that. It's completely confidential. So we're protecting them in their journey to wellness.
So I would just advise other cities, having a psychologist that actually is trained for police and fire is huge. That's unbelievably important. I asked recently how many firefighters were going to Focus, and they said 40 were seeing the police psychologist. So we went from one guy to 40 overnight, and it really kind of opened our eyes that a lot more people needed help than we thought.
Back on the job, thankful for the day which changed everything for him and his fellow firefighters.
So I'm working hard with our department to try and remove that stigma and offer up as much advice as I can about getting mental help.
I absolutely love this job. This is something that I get to do to provide for my family, to provide a service to the public, and it's something that I'm blessed that I'm able to do.
Firefighting is filled with uncertainties. You never know when you'll get the call for the biggest fire of your career. Get a diagnosis from a doctor which changes your life. Respond on a run that seems impossible to get out of your head, or have the chance to save someone else's life. It makes certainties more critical than ever.
Large disasters are becoming larger. They're happening more often. That no department, no matter how big you are, is going to be able to handle it on your own.
There is nothing more important than saving your friend, your brother, your sister, your cousin, whoever might be on that fire ground.
My goal is to go home to my wife every day. And now as an engineer, I tell my probationary firefighters, my goal for you guys every day is to get you home safe. For you to leave the same way you came to work.
And that's the goal. It's why the San Diego Fire Department is sharing its experiences and its lessons learned.
This is my 39th year in the fire service, and I thought I was a pretty smart guy, 39 years ago, early in my career, and I think I probably was. But if I had any advice, to share with others, is that, I think we as fire chiefs really do need to be humble. We need to understand humility. We need to set our egos aside.
There needs to be acknowledgement that there's things and hazards that we don't deal with in San Diego that they may deal with throughout the country.
Not everybody can be an aggressive engine company, first in, sending your first 2 firefighters inside. It doesn't work that way everywhere around the country. It doesn't work that way everywhere, for us even. But your mindset has to be about safety.
Don't keep quiet when it comes to safety.
For so many fire departments, they ask me, how can we replicate some of what you're doing? I say it's really all about relationship building, because there are so many advocates out in our community that absolutely love what firefighters do, our mission, our noble cause, and they just want to be asked for help.
We like to say, how many times we go to restaurants, they say, well, the customer is always right, the customer is always first. It's really kind of a different paradigm that we're talking about. It's about making our firefighters first. Because if we do, and we invest in them, and we do the things we need to do, the public, the community's gonna get a better service. They just will.